Grief also increases cortisol, which is your body's main stress hormone. Now, cortisol affects the hippocampus area of the brain, which is responsible for the storage and retrieval of memories. So the impact here is an impaired ability to form and retrieve memories. Now, this is why common symptoms of grief are forgetfulness and difficulty concentrating.
I'm sorry. That's another thing I want to talk about with grief. It's my memory.
Really?
Yeah, the trauma. Like it has definitely not. Now there's I had a dump at 40, loss of memory, but I've realized. So, what was I saying?
You were talking about I'm following people from Facebook.
Because of the thing for my sister, right?
Chick said that she was doing too much.
Yeah, so I didn't delete any of my sister's friends, and I learned later that she did. She deleted and blocked them, which obviously makes sense. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
She's an Aries, so they kind of like Aries and Leo. Y'all kind of have like that similar type of I'm not fucking with you, cut you off immediately type. They might be a little bit more, give you another chance type thing. But when y'all are done, it's the same vibe.
Mm-hmm.
It is literally the same vibe. And I just didn't. And I don't know, it wasn't just, it wasn't like right here. And then one of her mutual friends lost her mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to see that play out.
And was going through.
And she was going through. And of course, because it's my sister.
And initially it's protection mode.
Protection. I'm the baby. But it's so funny. I say it all the time. She's the big sister, but I'm the gangster.
Okay.
Like my sister's always been protective of me in a traditional big sister way. But I'm like, who the turn up,
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
ride it dawn.
Yes, ride it dawn, before dawn.
Yeah.
I specifically remember having a conversation with a couple of fellow friends of mine, and needless to say, they, I sent the goons to go handle something.
Mm-hmm.
And, it didn't happen because the person wasn't there. Nobody went to jail. Of course, I look back on it now like, I thought you was a king. I thought you was a kingpin out there.
Bird behavior. We know better.
It's my sister.
We know better now.
We know better now. But I just was like, this will not stand. Big Lebowski. And I saw this person grieving, and of course, like we said, protection. This is what you get. You know what I'm saying? Messing with my sister. But then you understand what grief looks like. You understand how it feels. And I'm like, okay, I know at 3:00 in the morning, 4 in the morning, when everyone else is sleeping, you can't sleep because you want your mom, or because you're angry because she's not here, or I didn't tell her this, or whatever the emotion is, because you're grieving. I was just like, I hope she remembers my sister at some point in time. Number one, I know that there hasn't been an apology or anything to this day.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was, I said, I hope what she did to my sister, nobody does to her in her time of need, in her time of grief. Because to see my sister that hurt, on top of the fact that she was devastated that we lost our mother, I wanted to kill somebody.
Yeah.
I was so mad. Because I'm like, you can't see that she's here. Mm-hmm. She's literally a chalk outline. She's literally drawing her own chalk outline. Mm-hmm. And you just going, but some people get it. They don't have to go through it, right? I can never imagine. But there are people who can and be like, I don't know what it feels like, but I know that if I lost my mother, I know I'm not going to be right. I know I'm not going to be well. This person needs help. This person needs support. And then there are some people who don't get it until they go through it. Yeah. And it's literally like, I was a horrible person. Mm-hmm. Now, they may not tell you, they may tell you, so, with that situation, it just was, it was, it was sad to see my sister lose her friends, but I always said funerals, weddings, and when people have babies, people show up.
What happens in society is someone dies, and then they know people are going to grieve, and they when someone is grieving, they sort of drop out of their life, of their normal life. They kind of go into hiding. And then the people around you kind of wait for you to come back, and they're like, okay, is she normal again? Is he normal again? Is everything fine? And then they kind of just want to move on, act like it didn't happen, and they want you to be okay. And so they'll say things like, well, I just want to give her space, or she needs space and time to heal. She needs time to grieve. So this is very, very normal, and it's the way society looks at things.
And the representative is gone. You could have known this motherfucker for 20 years. And they have been the quintessential friend. They have been the quintessential brother, spouse, whatever. Any one of those 3 changing life events happen, it's always somebody that just, you be like, where did this person come from? And, it's easier to deal with when you have a baby because there's still happiness there. It's easy to deal with when you get married because it's a happy event. But when you are going through grief, you lose somebody, and then yet people start acting crazy and treat you like trash, it's like double grief. It's terrible.
It is the death of another relationship.
Yeah.
Especially if you guys have been friends for a really long time and have a long history, been through stuff together, a lot of memories, a lot of ups and downs, and then they turn on you. That's definitely,
it's trash.
Yeah, it's definitely hurtful.
It's trash. And if you're not in the right space and you don't have the right support, you can't even fathom managing the grief that you already have. And then for something like that, you really feel like, whatever higher power you believe in, you really feel like they have it out for you. You feel like nothing is right. What did I do wrong? I'm being punished.
How is your support system? How has that helped you? Helped you through? I mean, we need that support system. How has it helped you?
Absolutely.
Being able to say to people, both that you know and that you don't know, I feel this thing. And having some person you've never met go, I feel this thing too. Because of what we've done to limit the conversation about grief is that we're all in this box where we think everything we feel is weird. We think everything we feel is wrong. And it's not, once again, helping us get back to the point where we can go to parties and people don't go, oh, the aw face. Everybody.
I know that face.
Oh, the aw face. But if you have conversations where you can just, and I have done this through Modern Loss and through Nora McInerney's group and through Soaring Spirits and through all of these organizations where you just listen to people and go, yep, that sounds familiar. Yep, that sounds familiar. And you just don't feel alone.
So my support system is you and Lee and my sister. It's weird because she's support, even though we both are sharing the grief. Some distant friends that knew, both of my moms. People reach out that you haven't heard from when, tragic situation happens. Aisha, we've had our, moments because of, her trauma with losing so many people in her life. But I would say that overall, my support system has been awesome. And that is not missed on me because there's so many people who go through grief and they don't have no support.
Yeah.
It is amazing. I could not imagine losing all of the people in the succession of time that I've lost the people. The relationship, the strong, the strength of the relationship, like both of my mothers. I lost a boyfriend. I lost a best friend. Those are really major people to lose. I couldn't imagine navigating any of that and having no support system. I just don't understand that. But then, there's some people who maybe use asshole. Maybe nobody wants to support you. I don't know, But I'm grateful for that. I'm also grateful for how much I take care of myself as far as understanding when I need help
Yeah.
and being able to make the decision to pick up the phone or type an email or whatever the case may be. Because when you are in the thick of grief or you're in the thick of trauma, the hardest thing for you to do is to say, I'm drowning, I need help.
How has therapy helped that?
Therapy has been very difficult because
Yeah.
here's a mirror.
Yeah.
Wait, here's another mirror, and here's another mirror.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when you know, trying to get your wardrobe together, you need a three-way mirror. It's hard, but I have never shied away from deconstructing myself. I've always felt like I did that really, really well, and I think I did well. And then this shit happened, and then I was like, oh, I don't have the tools that I have. They're not gonna work for this,
Yeah.
right? So you know, when you first get your first apartment, you have the little girly toolbox.
Yeah. Everybody had IKEA jump.
Exactly. Then you graduate to a house. This toolbox is not gonna work. You need bigger tools. You need different tools. You cannot, you know, use this little flathead screwdriver to build a shed in the backyard. You can't do that. And so I think that there was a time before I went to therapy this time where I was really trying to apply everything that I learned from previous therapy, from, you know, previously going through grief. And I was like, none of this shit is working. And I was like, I know I need to go. But I was like, why isn't this working? I was like, well, this is not just grief, it's trauma. You know, it's a traumatic event.
Yeah.
And trauma's like a buzzword right now. You know, and
It's just like narcissists. People use this shit for everything.
and I think that some of it is people are purposefully misusing the word, but I do think that because now we have so many words and so many different ways, like we have new language now, and so we have an overabundance, like a tendency to overuse these words and not really understanding what they mean. And I don't think that it is intentional most of the time. I think that when something happens to you and it's hurtful, it feels like it's trauma. But trauma is the definition of trauma is very specific, right? What happens to your body is very specific. And how long it happens is very specific. Now, you could go through a breakup and it can be very heartbreaking.
Yeah.
You could go through a death and it not be traumatic. Like, I wouldn't consider when my mom died in 2013, that was not traumatic for me. It was probably traumatic for my sister, but I didn't have trauma behind it. I had grief. And I had, you know, I was mourning and I had some other, you know, emotional issues, like because I wasn't there, I had guilt.
Right.
You know, but what trauma does is that it stops your ability to like function in everyday life, right? You can have a situation, a bad situation that happens. You can have an argument with your spouse. You can have drama with your kids, and that may like kind of turn your life upside down for a little bit of time. But then you whatever tools you have, you're a healthy person, healthy-minded person. It doesn't stop you from getting back on track. When you have trauma, it stops everything, right? You every tool, everything that you know, it doesn't work because you're in this. Whatever the tragic or the traumatic event is, it robs you of being able to, you know, use everything that normally would work. You can't figure out how to use that stuff. And so it's important for me to tell the people about what trauma did to me, because trauma is a buzzword right now. And I know that there's so many people out here that are hurting, but just because you're in pain doesn't mean that you have trauma. And it's important to make that distinction because there are people who are actually living with trauma.
So can you make that distinction for us?
Yes.
Trauma and pain?
Right. So for me, when my birth mother died, the day after Christmas, right? That was, Christmas is a big deal in my family, right? Probably most Black people. Christmas is a big deal. We struggle all year. You know, you probably can't get the kids, take them to the trips and this and that and the third, but we go all out for Christmas, right? We go broke. We don't pay the light bill, whatever the case may be. Christmas is a big deal for most Black families. And to have something so terrible happen around the holiday, because when my mom died in 2013, she died 2 days after Thanksgiving. So now the two biggest holidays in my life have sadness around them.
Right.
But then this situation, it has sadness and it has trauma. And so what I realized started to happen to me was immediately I started to have nightmares. Immediately I had sensory issues, right? So I would smell things that weren't present. I would, like, and to like be detailed with the nightmares, I would scream in my sleep and have to be like awakened. Most of the time I would, like, right before Damon would awake me, I would hear myself. And then I would wake up. Most of the time I would remember the dreams. Sometimes I wouldn't, but they were always very, very, very traumatizing. The dreams themselves would be traumatizing. There will always be a very major element of death. Myself, right? You know, like the old wives' tale was, oh, like if you have a nightmare and you fall off a building, you better wake up before you hit the ground, because if not, you're gonna die in your sleep. I've died plenty of times in my dreams. I'm still here. Like, literally, I've hit the floor, had a motherfucker stab me, shoot me, literally see myself, oh, she's dead, and I would wake up. So that took a minute for me to be like, what, you know what I mean? Okay, so clearly that's an old wives' tale. That's not true. I done fell off plenty of buildings in my sleep. The one thing that it didn't do was take my appetite, which I wish it did. If there's ever a time for motherfuckers to not want to eat, just take my ability to want to eat, at least. Just give me 2 weeks. Just give me 2 weeks. But no, never did. You know, I would have moments of confusion. There would be times I'd be in the car, and so most of the time people be driving and you be like, damn, I'm at the house already, right? That's a normal level of what they call dissociation. It's normal. Not healthy, not safe, but it happens. It's normal, right? You're thinking, you're multitasking, but because of muscle memory and because you know how to drive or whatever the case may be, you get to where you're going and you're like, hey, did I turn down the right street? Well, obviously I did. I'm in front of the house, so I'm at the Target or whatever the case may be. I would literally, there were 2 major incidences where I did not know where I was going. I could not remember where I was going. I couldn't remember why I was going somewhere. And I was just like, I'm gonna have to talk to my therapist about this, because this is very scary as a result of, you know, the trauma. I'm on medication. And I was so glad that when I thought about it and I talked to her about what I was experiencing physiologically, that she was on the same page. And
so
then
she was probably just waiting for you to.
And my primary doctor was on the same page. So we were all in bahoots. That's an inside joke. We were all in bahoots. And I was so happy to get a happy pill, because what wound up happening was, once everything started to come to the surface, I felt everything.
If you had strep, your throat was aching, you had a major headache, you had body aches, you had a fever, would you prevent yourself from going to the doctor and getting treatment, getting medicine? Would you feel ashamed for needing to stay in bed? Probably not. You'd probably want to get help immediately so that you can feel better. And I think that if we start to change our mindsets and the way we feel about even how we feel, then things will start to change. So if you're feeling depressed, if you're struggling and dealing with a mental illness, and if you're just, thinking that you might need to take more time taking care of your mental health, there is totally nothing to be ashamed about. Depression affects more people than we know, than we talk about. And the best thing you can do is ask for help.
Every emotion.
I remember that.
Everything. I mean, there were times I called you, I was out of my mind, crying on the phone and stuff like that, because it was so overwhelming.
Yeah.
I've experienced a lot of loss in my life, so I functioned for a long time with a certain level of numbness, right? Maybe in my 20s, early 30s, it was unhealthy. I would find myself, in unhealthy situations. We'll talk about that another time. But for the most part, I felt like I had a healthy balance of feeling things and not being overwhelmed by them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I can remember having such a long stretch of time in my life where I was overwhelmed by feeling every single thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was too much.
I can't remember. Since I've known you, I don't remember that.
So maybe feeling everything wouldn't have been as bad.
Yeah.
But then it was also the mental. So it was like I was thinking about so many things, and then I was feeling everything. And so when you feel everything and you're thinking about everything, you can't process what you're thinking because you feel too much. And I needed something to just kind of just neutralize it, knock the shit down to a 10, because I'm at a 38. This is too much.
Yeah.
And it took like 2 or 3 times for them to find the right dosage.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful. First of all, I'm grateful because I have a job. I have the ability to pay for insurance that gets me this medication. There's so many people that are just out here that just they can't, right? And so, we see them at the McDonald's, we see them in the parking lot, and and of course, safety first. But because of my own personal experiences with people with mental illness, my birth mother, seeing some family members go undiagnosed for years, my mother, I'm way more sensitive to understanding what it looks like when people are not medicated.
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine. And this was not even I'm not saying it wasn't a big deal, but this is not like schizophrenia. I didn't have auditory hallucinations. It wasn't anything where it was like I needed to be strapped down to be hospitalized.
Yeah.
I just needed help managing what I was feeling.
I needed some type of breather.
I could not imagine still having I couldn't imagine not being able to get up every day, pop a pill, and then being at a neutral state where I could manage my emotions. That's not to say that I don't feel nothing.
Right.
But I'm not overwhelmed by it, and I'm so grateful because it makes the thoughts and the things that are going on in my mind, I have peace now. And it doesn't mean that the shit that was going on in my brain is not happening. It's like I literally cut through the noise, and I'm really, really grateful for that. And I'm grateful for my therapist. You ask, how therapy has helped. Therapy has helped so much. It's very intense. I didn't know that there were different types of therapy for dealing with, grief and trauma. We haven't done it in a while. One form is called Brainspotting, where you basically, it's like this, it's like a pointer, and because we're on Zoom, you have to tell her where it is, where you can see it in the field on the phone or the computer, and then she wants you to look at it, and like it'll say, for instance, I'll be talking about, oh, I remember when my mother and I got into an argument and she said X, Y, and Z. Okay, let's talk about that. Let's brain spot that, right? And what brain spotting is supposed to do, because the theory is that when you have trauma, it gets trapped inside your body, and we don't access it because we don't like to sit with the pain. We don't like to sit with the feeling. And so what brain spotting is supposed to do is you recall a memory, and then you figure out where you feel it in your body, and you just sit with it. If you want to talk about it, you can talk about what you're feeling, but it really is like, it really just kind of like throws you in the middle of the pool, and it forces you to feel.
Where did you feel yours? Majority
Depends
of the
on
time.
memory.
Okay.
Most of
Give us
the
example
stuff
of
was
one.
here.
Okay.
Because I have a problem with expressing myself.
Okay.
I have a problem with
Advocating.
advocating for myself, standing up for myself.
Mhm.
And so now the memories wouldn't necessarily be situations where I didn't advocate for myself.
Yeah.
A lot of them would be, but some of them wouldn't be.
Yeah.
But I would feel it here.
Yeah.
Or I would feel it here.
And did it feel like it was suffocating? Did it feel like a lump in your throat?
So most of the time, it felt like there was a lump in my throat. So then it would be immediately crying, right? Yeah. It would be, oh, that's what it was. But sometimes I would cry, and then so as you're going through it, the theory is that the more you feel it, the less overwhelming it becomes. And so then the next time you recall that memory, it won't be as taxing on you emotionally. Because the other thought process is that when trauma gets stuck in your body, it makes us sick, right? Stress, how people say stress is a killer. You have physiological responses. That's why sometimes when people have a panic attack, they feel like they're having a heart attack. It's the same premise. And so what therapists want to do with Brainspotting is to get that sickness out of your body. And their theory is you have to sit with the pain. You have to sit with the emotion.
People who process their grief allow themselves to face their pain, even in small doses. They address their feelings. They may write about them or talk about them. They mourn. When someone doesn't work through their pain, they try to distract themselves. They keep busy. They desperately avoid their pain, which in the long run leads to more pain.
And so most of the time it was here. I've always had stomach problems, some digestive issues. A lot of times I would feel it here. Maybe once or twice I felt it in my head, but it will always be between here and my stomach. Sometimes I would feel a little tingle in my feet, which I was like, what is that about? That feels weird. But you have to acknowledge it. You have to talk about it. And so what the pointer does is she would move it, and she would say, and even if you were in person, they would say, tell me, where to stop, and then where do you feel it based off of wherever the pointer is. And it would be weird because the pointer, I wouldn't stop it in the same spot every time. Sometimes it would be more to the left, sometimes it would be dead center, sometimes it would be to the right, but it would be like once she would be moving it, and when I would feel it, I would have to tell her to stop.
Now, did you journal these emotions, these feelings, to pinpoint exactly where it was in your body and the memory that was attached to it?
Not necessarily. It took me a while to really get into the habit of journaling my sessions. And I wish I would have started sooner, because also I'm in my 40s, right? So I don't remember shit anyway. Then the trauma, I really don't remember stuff. But you said, you tell yourself, okay, I'm gonna remember to go put the such and such in the such and such. And then it's 3 a.m. and you realize you didn't put the such and such in the such and such. So, okay, I'm gonna remember this. Oh, okay, what she said was really good, but I don't have no book, I don't have no pen. I'm gonna remember. How much shit I forgot from the early sessions. So, I have 2 journals here, right? This one here is almost done. And I wound up journaling, not just, the sessions. I would journal, because I was every week, and now I'm on every other week. And I would journal. So we're on. I would journal from when the session would be over. I would try to journal every day or every other day, or whenever something major that I would want to talk about in therapy, until it got to the point where I had to write something every single day. Then it got to the point where I was able to not only, also with Brainspotting is that you don't necessarily, it's better if you have the whole pointer thing and have a visual representation to pull you into the emotion. But I would have memory recall when I wasn't in therapy. So I would use the principles of brain spotting. Okay, you're thinking about this, you're having a physiological response. The first question I always ask, where do you feel it?
Yeah.
And then I would hone in on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sit with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is how I'm feeling. And sometimes I would feel it move, you know, or I would feel it decrease. And I'm in the habit of doing that now. So even if I'm not in the session, I'm grateful that this is now a habit for me.
So say there's a person who is up pacing 3 o'clock in the morning and they just need some type of help. Everybody is asleep, and we know we turn to YouTube University to figure things out, and they type in how to deal with the death of a parent, or how to deal with grief. What would you say to them? Just a couple tips for them.
Well, first I would say that grief isn't linear. So you're not going to go from one stage to the next stage to the next stage and then find the end point, right? Initially, I was very devastated when my birth mother passed, and I was in such a state of disbelief because we had just made a plan to get the ball rolling, and then I went to, I guess, some level of acceptance. I had moments of anger. I am back into sometimes feeling like I can't believe this happened. You know what I mean? So I would tell people.
So is it like cyclical?
I wouldn't say it's cyclical. It's really like,
It's all over the place.
it's like tell your youngest child to draw you a picture. It's literally, it can be all over the place over time, with a good support system, and that doesn't necessarily mean therapy. But whatever your support system is, and I recommend multi levels of support, not just your friends, not just your family, not just your faith, not just your therapist.
It could be an entity. It could be the gym.
The gym. Listen, it's two things that I make sure I do.
Yeah.
I go to therapy and I go to the gym.
Yep.
If I don't do nothing else, it's to the point where, well, I haven't missed the session, but like, even if I had to move my session today to tomorrow, I can't wait.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I can't wait.
Yeah.
And it's not because there's anything that's tugging at me. It's not something like right now. I don't feel like, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm feeling all of these emotions. But it's a habit for me now. It's like it's working the muscle. And when I don't go to the gym, you ask me, you be like, so when's the last time you've been to the gym? Or if I tell you like, oh, I didn't go to the gym, you're like, okay, are you going today? Because I mean, obviously, first of all, we're just fitness people anyway. We love taking care of ourselves because we have babies and grandbabies and kids and people that we love. We love each other. We don't have time for that. But also, Jennifer recognizes that when I don't go to the gym, I'm not my best self, right? And as a creative, right, I'm a writer. I can't write right now. I haven't been able to get back into the consistent flow of writing, and that is bothering me. But doing something physical is also a form of creation for me. And so if I can't get to the gym, it's bad. It's bad. I'm not checking for it. I'm not checking for it. So for people if you're going through the death of a parent, whether you are close to them or you have a tumultuous relationship or a difficult relationship with them, find your people, find your support. And I understand why we do it. Don't be running around here talking about, I'm good, I'm strong, thinking that once the funeral is over, that you just got to move on. There is an aspect of acceptance and having to just continue with your life, right? But there are going to be days when you're going to feel like, I don't have it today. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you want to die. right? And you may feel like that, but not like, oh, I want to take my life. But some days you want to feel like,
I want to try.
I don't want to do anything to that suggests that I have to work to be better. I don't want to do nothing, right? I don't feel like it. You know, there's some days where I'll be like, you know what, I don't want to be here. Not that I don't want to live. I love my life. I love my friends. I love my family. I love my support system. I love when I'm able to create.
Telling Miranda.
I love my friends. And he was like, you are so,
It's like,
I mean, she had the dress on, she had the wine. I love my friends. I love my job. He was so like, what happened to this meek chick that nobody...
Nope. The Hanes t-shirt. Nope.
That is so classic.
Go ahead.
I absolutely sounded like Miranda just now. But you guys get the drift, right? And so it's not, because there was a point in time, you know, early in our friendship when I was suicidal. Not actively. Emotionally, I thought about taking my life.
Why?
I didn't feel worthy. I had motherfuckers in my ear all the time telling me I was ugly, right? So that was the foundation of me growing into womanhood, growing into adulthood, you know? Then when you hear that, either sometimes you can become a person who's like, all right, I'm gonna show all you MFers, and you know, it's gonna be a brick wall, and you can call me a bitch, and the only people I feel worthy are going to be able to penetrate, or you can become what happened to me, and you can be looking for love, working for nub in all the wrong places. And so then, you know, that's a cycle. Then you think you feel better, and then afterwards, when, you know, they treat you like trash, and then you feel like trash, and then you feel worse. You're not doing anything to get off of this hamster wheel, and you're not doing anything to better yourself, feel better about yourself. And then you just find yourself continuing in these habits. First of all, you don't realize it's a habit. You don't realize that it's pain. You don't realize that it's grief. You don't realize that it's fucking with your self-esteem. You don't realize any of it. You just wind up hating yourself because you knew you shouldn't have did the thing you just did. You know? And when you do it multiple times, now you have a situation where you have compounded pain, you have compounded grief, and it becomes overwhelming. And when that happens, and you don't have and it's not that your support isn't there, because you guys were there, but I needed more than that. I needed professional help. I needed to understand why I was doing the things I was doing. The source. I needed to, you know, how we say, get in there, dig in there. You got to go to work on Myra's feet. I needed that. And but then for you to do that, you have to admit that there's a problem. Then there's shame there. And when you have shame, or you feel guilt, what do they say? They say guilt is internal, shame is external. So when you feel shame, is usually based off of how other people are making you feel about yourself. And that's one thing. But then if you also feel guilty, so now it's that and it's this. And it's, you know, if you can't understand that you need professional help, you know, why? You know, because you don't see how you're going to get better. You don't feel, more importantly, I didn't feel like I deserved a better life.